Hello, Mark Romero here. How are you today? From time to time, I've done these interviews with people I just think are just bringing things forward and expressing things into the world that just have this ability to help lift us up. We all have to find the tools, the resources, the things that are going to continue to help us to navigate this thing called our human experience. And so today, I'm very excited to have a longtime friend, Martha Bowers, join us today to kind of bring forth what she's sharing, what she's bringing into the world, which I think is just valuable information that can help us all to, navigate through the stuff that has happened in our past experience. Let's face it, we've all had it. It's been part of our lives. It's kind of made us who and what we are today, and we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. But also different types of tools. Obviously we talk a lot about music and energy healing here, but this is an opportunity to learn some new things, perhaps maybe that you're not even aware of, that can really dramatically support you in your journey. So let's get to it. I'm going to read a nice little bio here and we're going to pop right in. So, through Martha's experience as a trauma survivor and certified therapist, she will share her experience, her journey, and the tools that she used to permanently erase the feeling of her abuse. Of course, you still have the memory, right? Still do have the memories, but she's going to show us how you can permanently eliminate the emotional trigger and thus begin your journey to the life that you desire. She desires to help people to realize that they can completely change their life trajectory within days. I love this. Weeks and months versus spending a ton of money and being heavily dependent on somebody else, which can take years. Which reminds me, my mom used to tease me that I was going to get a master's degree in therapy because I went to a traditional therapist way back when I started my healing journey. But I think this is part of what's emerging today is that things are showing up that can allow us to move through things so much quicker, so much easier, and a lot more cost effectively. So I love that line. In her recent endeavor, she created a mobile application to assist with emotional release. The mobile app is called Try Bach Flowers, which we'll dive into more. This app can help you determine the best flower essence for you in multiple ways. You can look at your current circumstances, something that you'd like to achieve, or perhaps based on an emotional state, like being overly fearful, judgmental, or bitter, to name a few. So help me welcome Martha Bowers. So excited to have you here. I have to just share this because Martha and I got connected years ago, back when I first started on this journey. One of my very first interviews on radio, I think it was actually on radio back then. And she's like going, you live here local. We need to go meet in a parking lot somewhere so I can get some CDs from you. So we've been hanging out with each other ever since. So I'm really excited to hold the space. So welcome, Martha. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I know I was hoping that conversation would come up because I was going on a trip and I needed them and couldn't wait for them to come in the mail, and you were local and I'm like, let's just connect. So it
I
was
know.
it was one of the best connections ever. And I did listen to it on radio. I think it was actually on a computer. It was on my computer, but it was on radio. And I appreciated your music so much that I just wanted to make sure I had it on my journey so I could listen to it. So
Yeah, see you. And then that was even like before download. So now we're like dating ourselves.
exactly. Well,
So,
thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to share.
oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So let's face it, our journeys kind of push us along, shove us along, move us back and forth in different ways. And I know that you've been into personal development and healing and recovering from trauma and things, et cetera. So maybe perhaps you could share a little bit about your background and what kind of, moved you in this direction.
Sure, I'll be happy to. And the first thing that I want to say is that you may not be able to relate to my trauma, but I do want to just say that every child has trauma. Everybody has trauma. And it's coming out now that we actually inherit the trauma of our own parents. So if your parents had trauma, then that's in you're in your field of your emotions, and we are a thumbprint of our parents. So even if you don't actually can relate to my abuse, which is it's pretty intense. I mean, I had a lot of betrayal and there was incest in our family, and I was molested as a child by family members, and from there I kind of I'm just going to use this. I managed through it. I think as every day. I mean, that's not something that's really unique. It happens to a lot of people. But then I got married and was married for 7 years, and then my ex-husband basically said, I don't love you. I never loved you. We should have never gotten married. And that was just such a painful time. And then I found out, like, within a few months after that, that my parents knew, my brother knew, my best friend knew, they all knew that he was cheating on me and had been for years. And so there was like a huge family betrayal that took place on top of all that. And so, I didn't want to let life get away from me. And so I decided to go down the traditional path of therapy. And I got involved with a therapist who did primal therapy. And that was so traumatic. I don't know if you understand primal therapy, but they basically reenact rape on you to get you through that time and space. And it's horrific. It's like so painful. Well, that therapist actually ended up molesting me, which was really interesting. Kind of, it happens. It's not common, but it does happen. And so that was another kind of a tailspin. And then I finally got to someone. I did talk therapy. I did EMDR, and those therapies were all very effective. And I feel like I did manage through that process of betrayal and trying to regain my harmony in my life and that sort of thing. But it took me like 19 years to kind of work through it, from the time I was divorced until I met my partner now. And it was a long journey. And so I really wanted to write a book, because I felt like that I had significantly transformed myself through that process. But I wanted to talk about the fact that it didn't have to be so painful. And I couldn't get off the coin of writing the book. So I ultimately ended up, I took a class from this guy who helps you remove emotional blocks that keep you from moving forward. And what I found was an amazing tool. It was an amazing tool that literally eliminates the emotions like almost instantly. I mean, I hate to make it sound like that, because it's hard to imagine. And look, if the trauma's old, it's going to take more than 1 or 2 sessions. But the beauty of it is that he teaches you how you can do it so that you can have that for yourself. I also work with people who don't have the fortitude to work through it and through the training, and I help them release it as well. It's called the Garand technique. And it's just an amazing process. So with that, I decided that I wanted to write a book. So that was my purpose for going to the class. And it is just an amazing, easy to do. I've had people who have been out of jobs. I've had people who have had cancer. That, it's from one end of the scale to the other of things that you can actually literally work through. So it's perfect for people who are looking for transformation.
I think it's beautiful that we are seeing more and more technologies emerging now that allow us to move things through so quickly. It's like before, like you mentioned earlier, and we were laughing about while reading your bio, it's like, yeah, it's like go to 15 years of therapy to forgive your mom. For me, it was very helpful, but that was all that was available back then. And
Right.
yes, it was powerful and transformational in my life. But now it's like there are so many things that are emerging that allow us to move quickly. And you brought up something I thought was very interesting. And it's something that we're becoming more and more aware of, but it's still new to a lot of people, is about this aspect of not only do we go through our traumatic experiences, and you've definitely gone through your share of traumatic experiences. We all have to one degree or another. But this aspect of picking up stuff from our parents through our lineage, I think is an intriguing area. I've heard it related not only energetically, but through our DNA. And it's like we come here with like a blueprint already from those people that have given birth to us, that have raised us in their experience. And then, of course, even their parents and their parents before them, which really creates this interesting dynamic. Do you ever wonder why that's the case in this crazy game called the human experience? Why do we have to come in with all this preloaded stuff?
Well, my personal experience is that we're here to learn lessons, and we're here to go through a process. And so um, I feel like it's just part of our journey, and it's part of understanding. Now, but I also think that, I mean, whether you're biblical or not, there's the generational sin, right, that they talk about in the whole Bible aspect. But I think that whether you believe in the Bible or not, there's generational things that come through that if your parents had a bad experience, like I remember somebody having this horrible fear that he was going to be shot and killed. And, when in an intuitive reading, I got that there was an experience that he had in the womb. And when he went back to his mother broke down and started crying because she had had somebody threaten her with a
Wow.
gun. And it was showing up in his body because he was in the womb at the time that happened. And so you don't think about those things kind of coming through, but they do. And so that is just an echo of how what's going on with the mother affects the child. And so you can do all the right things and something like that can still show up and have an effect on the child. But he just had these unrealistic fears that he couldn't identify, didn't make sense. And we were able to get to the root of it.
So,
And
and that's intriguing and interesting, and just like, how powerful it is and how sensitive we are, how we do pick up things and carry it with us. How even simple comments were made to us maybe as we were young children that maybe even wasn't said to you with an intent of malice or something behind it, but yet we interpreted that information and formed a limiting belief based on it. And it's just intriguing, and I think it kind of provides this background for us to kind of forget our divine essence, forget our magnificence. And then we go through this process of life where we begin to reclaim our power back from those circumstances so that we can really kind of utilize that power to create the life of our dreams. So it kind of brings me to this idea of trauma and erasing the emotional triggers of trauma. So first, I'm curious why. So obviously we've had these traumatic experiences in our past. And if we have not worked on them or have not resolved them or have not cleared that energy out, things can happen in our present moment experience that can cause an emotional trigger, that can bring things to the surface. And I was just kind of curious, why do you suppose that is? Why is it that somebody could say something and it can trigger this huge emotional response? Kind of like the gentleman you were sharing about who had this fear of guns, how things can open up like that. I was just kind of curious, what is your take on why emotional triggers we get triggered, and why is it important to not get triggered?
right. Well, and I think we've all had that moment where we over responded to something when we haven't, and we're like, I don't even know where that came from. We're like I was such an idiot, like why did that even happen? And a lot of it has to do with those unresolved issues that we just say, you know what, I'm better than that, I'm just gonna push through. But the bottom line is subconsciously it's still active. And this is the beautiful thing about his program, is that he really works on the unconscious aspect of us, not the conscious, not as much the conscious. I mean, it's both, but it's an unconscious response. And a lot of times if we refuse to face it, and sometimes we can't even remember it because it was so traumatic, we just try to push, our human bodies will just push through it, right? And then sometimes what I've also experienced in this program is that you'll clear something, and then you'll have the memory of it. And you'll have the memory of, I was playing when I was 4 and my friend didn't show up, and it was supposed to be my birthday party or something. You'll have something that will show up that'll be somewhat familiar to you, and you'll be able to identify with it. And the beauty of it is we can then clear it. And so I think it's just unresolved issues that will create these really outbursts of emotions that we can't even explain. And so it's if and we take it out on the ones we love the most, right? I mean, it's unfortunate, but we do.
Usually they're excellent triggers.
Exactly,
People
exactly. And
that were in.
especially now there's so much controversy, and everybody's so on edge, and everything is so misunderstood right now, that I feel like that was, one of the real reasons that, through me breaking through, being able to move forward. I had this app idea 10 years ago. I mean, I've been taking natural health classes for years, and I took a class on Bach flowers, and if you're okay, I'm just going to lead on with that.
Mhm.
That Dr. Bach was a physician in England in the early 1900s, and in the 1930s, he got kind of disingenuated with the whole medical process because he started to identify that people who had positive outlooks on life would get healthy faster and would actually and recover. But people who didn't have a happy disposition would sometimes not recover at all, and or it would take their recovery time would take longer. And so he kind of stepped away from his medical practice and went to the country to kind of figure out what he knew, that there has to be another part of the whole medical process. I'm not against doctors. I think doctors are appropriate for surgery and burns and accidents, and but then there is an emotional aspect that has to be taken care of in order for the healing to really begin and to be complete healing. And so he created 38 Bach flowers that kind of represented people's emotions. And the information it's hard to kind of navigate. I've got 8 or 9 books on Bach flowers, and I wanted to create something, number one, that if I was feeling something, I want to be able to go to my phone and just answer the questions and or go for an area of my life that I want to work on, find the flower essence that I need. And in this case, you can buy it on the app, or you can buy it in the store if you're at the store and you want to just pick it up while you're there. And the thing is that flower essences actually help balance out the emotions that you're challenged with or you're dealing with. And so, like if you were in a car accident, and a lot of people that I'm sure listening to this have heard of flower rescue remedy, or rescue remedy. It's a Bach flower remedy that is a combination of flowers. But what if you're just dealing with feeling shy, or you have something that you want to achieve in your life, that you want to kind of break through, or maybe you want to work on looking at like, what are your emotional aspects to even eating, right? Sometimes we have issues with weight. And so what's the emotional aspect of that weight? Or what about a relationship? So perhaps you've gone through a divorce and you want to actually you want to let go of that old bitterness that you're feeling. You want to not feel jealous of the new family that's moving forward and you're not there. I mean, there's lots of different aspects to relationships that you can work on, or just having one, right? And so I've tried to help people be able to identify groups or areas or things that they're feeling or situations that they're experiencing. Maybe they're demanding too much of their employees, and they want to look at, how can I ease that a little bit so it's just not so prominent, and I can still achieve and get what I want from the people that work underneath me.
So really then it's kind of like we observe our lives, we see how we are, we see how we're being in our lives, we look at where we're experiencing disharmony, whether it be
Yes.
in our health or our relationships or at work or whatever. And then we can use this flower essences to actually help to restore harmony to that aspect within our own selves that's kind of out picturing as the challenges. So how do different essences actually have different frequencies? How do they actually shift our energy?
Well, it is, we are connected to the earth, right? And I think part of what's been going on over the last 30 or 40 years is we've been getting more disconnected,
Mm.
right? And as that disconnection happens, there's more of not being connected to people, to places, to things, to the earth itself, and realize we're energy. We're made of energy. And so the more we get away from the energy aspect of the world, we have that disharmony, right? So things that bring us closer to is the energetic aspect of nature, of the flowers of it. And so what happens is that these flower essences, they're used to pull that energetic compound out of it. It is, and the particular essences that I have on my website, they are based in alcohol. You can also get them in glycerin if you're opposed to using alcohol, but you can also apply them directly to your skin if you don't want to consume them internally. But they actually bring an energy aspect. And what you'll find is that typically within 3 weeks, that emotional aspect will just kind of balance out, so that it's not quite as high or it's not quite as loud. And it's been interesting because I've been using them on pets as well. And we had my neighbor, who is had to move out of their house because they had a flood. They have a dog, and when they came in, I was just horrified because he was muzzled, and I was like, oh my gosh, like dogs shouldn't be muzzled. I'm like, it just broke my heart. And they said, well, we can't trust him. And I said, you know what? I have Bach flowers and I know that they can help. And we gave him 3 different remedies. And the transformation in this dog, literally in the first week, they couldn't even have a guest come in their house.
Wow.
Because he would be aggressive without muzzling him. And they literally had, their daughter came in with her boyfriend. The dog nuzzled right up in between them and laid there with them without any kind of aggression. And they had never experienced that and this had been something that was building up. He wasn't like that originally as a puppy, but now as an older dog, he's starting to have all this kind of emotional trauma. And I actually think he is being traumatized in their old home. I think somebody was traumatizing the dog when they didn't know it, but that's just my perspective. But anyway, he nuzzled right up. My last report was that they had a friend that they've now since moved back into their house after their insurance repair was taking place. And they had a friend come over who was so fearful of the dog. She was like, she was so afraid to be around it by herself. And Buddy just went up and nuzzled her and let her pet him, and he didn't have his muzzle on, and she was just so shocked, like, what is going on with Buddy? Because he had this other aspect that she had a memory of, and so that's how powerful they are, even our pets. And which is a good time for me to just mention, it's the 4th of July. If you have an animal, shock, the rescue remedy is great for them, to just give them some to help them calm them down during the next few days leading up to it, and a couple of days after, just to help them navigate. Because you know how dogs react to fireworks. They're uber sensitive. And
Right.
so, but that's just an explanation of how energetically it can shift. And he has a story for me almost every day about something different that has happened with that dog. So just to give you an example of how powerful they are.
That's amazing. And we've been using flower essences here, and then we've seen the transformation. Literally, like within seconds, you can see a transformation take place. So it's very, very powerful, and certainly another way to work with frequency, with energy, and ultimately with the intention in mind of shifting your own state of being so that you can be more harmonious. Who doesn't want to go through life more harmonious? I don't know about you, but I like that idea. So that
Yeah.
sounds like an excellent tool, excellent resource. So I know you have this app, and I want to find out. So where can people find out more about your app?
So my app is on both the Apple Store and Google Play, and it's called Try Bach Flowers. And it is $8.99, and but you can use it forever. It's like you can go in, you can create, and I can give you a little snapshot of it here if you want. You can pull up the app. There's categories. So
Yeah, and I know that there's an introductory information
yep,
that's available on the platform.
there's instructions up at the top. I can't really show it. It's not really showing,
Yeah.
but there's categories. You can work with your chakras. You can work with your current circumstances. You can work with root emotions. So if you have a lot of fear, or if you have children that have a lot of fear, you can work with them with using Bach flowers, and it'll help shift their energy. And it works with all the different categories. And then it goes into the flower essences that support it. And then you can get into the descriptions if you want to know more information, but you can just download it. And then if you want to do the Bach flower traditional questionnaire, it's 119 questions.
Wow.
My experience is that's a lot. A lot of people don't have time. And that's the one thing that is one of the reasons why I wanted to build the app, because people go, 119 questions, I don't have time, right?
And I'm sure those 119 questions bring up a lot of stuff.
Of course.
If you're
Yeah,
diving in 119 questions, there's going to be questions that are making you feel uncomfortable and stuff.
sure.
This sounds like an excellent tool, excellent resource to be able to access this. So I just want to make sure I understand and that everybody understands clearly. So we can go in there, we can look under these, search by different ways, whether we want to work with a specific chakra, whether we want to work with a specific emotional state. We can take the questionnaire, we can get recommendations, and then we can ultimately order through the app or go find the essences at another place, or how does that work?
Exactly. So you can buy the essences on the website. The questionnaire is also on the website. It's a little different. It doesn't give you the answers, but I'll provide you with that information. But on the app, you can ask the questions, you can order the product, and you can have it shipped directly to you. Or if you're standing at the store and you want to pick it up right now because you want to work on it right now, you can just pull the app open. You can even go through the questionnaires. And the way that Bach flowers work, and in the traditional sense, is that you can work up to 6 essences at a time, or 7 essences at a time. So you literally take some spring water, you drop in 4 drops of each of the essence, you percuss it, and you can take it that way. So if you're familiar with using Bach flowers, you can do it from that perspective. But if you want to just buy a bottle of essences, you take 2 drops of the full strength essence 4 times a day, and you can use that bottle until it's gone. That's what I recommend, or until you have, or you feel like that emotion has really been subsided and you can tell that it's not affecting you anymore. But like I said, typically about 3 to 4 weeks is the norm. So and the great thing is I've got large sizes of essences, I have small sizes of essences. So if you want to buy 7 of them, you're not having to spend $15 for 7 of them. They're like $8 a piece for the smaller ones.
Wow.
And so it makes it a little bit more manageable to do multiples instead of trying to, or if you want to work with me directly, you can schedule an appointment with me and I can send you your essence as well. And so,
Awesome. Awesome. So, okay. So I want to encourage everybody, if you're interested in learning more, go to either the Apple or the Google store and search for Try Bach Flowers, and that's BACH Flowers, and check that out. And then Martha, you have a website. Why don't you tell us what that address is? How can we find more? How can we connect with you?
so trybachflowers.com, same URL. And you can reach me also on my phone, and text is probably the best way, 714-470-3541. And I can schedule appointments or give you, talk about whatever it is that you're looking to try and solve and help you in any way I can. And I'm also going to be doing some tutorials on how to use the app. So you're going to be able to find that on my Facebook page, which is trybachflowers.com, and on the website, so that if you have any questions about how to use it. And like I said, there's also instructions in the app itself on how to use Bach flowers. So anything that you need, I'm happy to help you so that we can get you into a state of harmony, because we all need that, more of that in our life.
And it is an ongoing process, isn't it? It's kind of like the guitar. I have to tune that thing all the time. And the same principle applies to you and me and all of us. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your experience, sharing what's come out of that experience, and these different tools and different resources that are available to help us all to, more eloquently, shall we say, navigate the human experience, which we know is a series of ups and downs and twists and turns and all kinds of different things. So thank you so very much. I invite you to go check out those websites, trybachflowers.com, Facebook page. Are you on YouTube or anything else, or primarily Facebook? Or
Primarily Facebook and Instagram. I haven't started the YouTube channel yet, but I will.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. And I appreciate you being on and sharing your wisdom with us. So thank you again, everybody, for taking the time to tune in. I hope you'll go check out and learn more and discover how something as simple as flower essences can have a profound effect upon your life. Thank you again. Take care and have a harmonious day.